Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Kylee Ingram, founder and CEO of the decision intelligence platform Wiser, and a veteran of television, tech, and entrepreneurship. And we'll learn with her the hidden patterns of decision failure, the critical gap between how decisions should be made and what actually happens, and how to surface the hidden decision talent already within your team. Welcome to the show, Kylee.
Thank you very much for having me, Ajay. It's great to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Kylee. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people, a lot of organizations across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about the science of decision, better decision making. We'll learn about all this. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know, audience knows who they are listening to.
Great. Well, thank you. My background actually came from television, and I started out in sports TV. And I went around the world doing things like the Soccer World Cup, World Surf Tour, and things like that. And at some point I thought, oh dear, TV could be more than this. So I moved across into the documentary space and did a lot of documentaries around people, sustainability issues. And then Screen Australia was offering grants for producers to move into the interactive space. And from there, I got a couple of nominations at Cannes for my interactive suggestions. And so I thought, oh, this is great. And what I really liked about tech was there's not the gatekeepers that you get in TV. There's, a limited number of people making these very big decisions about what appears on television. And that doesn't happen in tech, and you can kind of test quicker whether or not your audience wants what you're making. So tech started to really appeal to me. And yeah, I kind of went across and made the leap. I see it all as creating, creation, I think, is at the bottom of what I'm interested in doing.
Absolutely, Kylee. So help us understand, what is it that you are trying to do, help understand the world about better decision making. Tell us in a common person's language, especially for a common small business person's language, if they want to implement this.
Yeah, sure. And, to just give myself a little bit of credibility about how I got from television to decision intelligence, is that, one of the projects that I did that was interactive was around, I was really interested in wise crowd theory, the idea that a wise crowd can make a better decision than an individual. And at the same time, I was reading Thinking Fast and Slow about, how we make decisions as individuals. And I did a project called Crowd TV, where we came together to make a television show based on what people wanted. And it was really cool, a really cool experience. And then my co-founder came to me. He had done his PhD work in wise crowd thinking and found three things that went into our technology that you need. You get wise crowd effects with 6 or more people. You need independence, and you need expertise and diversity. And I can come back to what all that means. But at the same time, as we were kind of getting into Wiser, we were introduced to the amazing Dr. Juliet Burke, who was at Deloitte at the time in Australia. And she'd written a book, Which Two Heads Are Better Than One, that was used by the Australian Institute of Company Directors. And it really looked at decision styles and frameworks. So we went to her and said, can we use your research, which has really become, the linchpin of what we've created at Wiser. And basically, if you're thinking about what we're trying to do is help people improve how decisions get made. And that is all about human judgment. But what actually happens is we need to address the structural forces that play out behind that, what is wrong. And a lot of that comes down to bias. So most decisions are being shaped by a small and familiar group of people. And over time they replicate themselves. And it's not bad intent, it's not malicious, but it's a predictable human bias. And so Juliet talks about 3 of those biases, and, they're talked about in many books. So we trust people that think like us, and we overweight that familiar experience. So we need to, and we underestimate what impact that has. And the research is clear. If cognitive diversity is low, decisions narrow, blind spots compound, and risk increases. And even when everyone is capable and well-meaning. And in Juliet's research, she found what that meant was you get a 30% increase in your decision error, or you can reduce that by 30% by increasing your cognitive diversity, and you get a 20% increase in your innovation over that.
Absolutely, Kylie. Let's understand it from an organization point of view. There are different layers of decision makers. The CEO is there, other people are also there. And in most of the places, we understand that they use the data that they get it from whatever sort of businesses do, whatever the work they do. And then that data is also analyzed from the human angle, from cognitive point of view, from understanding point of view, from vision point of view, from immediacy point of view, from the future point of view. And then the final decisions are made. Obviously, decisions cannot be 100% correct. And a lot of decisions have to be taken by the topmost person, either the CEO or somebody else. So I want to understand, where is the problem? When there is no maliciousness involved, everybody has a great heart, still the decisions are not being made correctly. Help us understand from that point of view.
Yeah, well, in Juliet's research, she found that 75% of CEOs in the Western world, in particular, have 2 types of that cognitive diversity, and they're outcomes and options focused. And that means over time they do something called cognitive drift. People start to pick people that reflect themselves, and then they also, those people, you might have a lot of cognitive diversity down here when you start, and people start to realize they need to be like this to succeed in those things. So it's not malicious, but people pick one another because they like it. So once you get to middle management, that cognitive diversity really narrows. And the other things we look at with WISER, when we're looking at why, like we can look at a decision that's being made live, and we're looking at outward-facing diversity, which is age, gender, and ethnicity, basically. And there's so much research about what those different factors bring, which is really interesting. Then we look at experience, which is super important. So you can imagine one of the really interesting case studies is Boeing. They took the engineers out of the room to replace them with management people, and you're making these decisions without engineering decisions without an engineer. So you have to know you have that experience in the room. And then there's that cognitive diversity layer. So you start to look at all 3 live to see what you might be missing from the room. And one of the great case studies in Juliet's book was at Enron. Enron's board looked like it had a little bit of diversity. There was a female in there was a professor, there was whatever. But if you analyze them, they were almost the exact same thinking style. So it just, once again, you overweight that familiar experience, and you think you're going really fast and making decisions, but you're coming at it the exact same way, which might be outcomes, and you're not analyzing the different types like to look at different things, whether it's outcomes, people, risk, evidence, whatever it is, they're coming at it a different way. And you can't fake that. You've got a primary and a secondary, but you can't fake. You might be able to think in that style for a little while. You could imagine being like that, or you could ask AI to be like that, but you can't interrogate it from that if you are not that type, is what Juliet's research found. Dr. Burt's research found.
Absolutely. Now, taking your examples, you see, we all know what happens when, people have a different focus altogether, either a lot of profit, more profit, and some more profit. then that problem occurs. But in general, day to day, a lot of founders are there, individuals are there. They are running their companies based on data collected as well as their own understanding of things. One is the if we even if we don't call it malicious, too much profit driving can make you go remove the right people from that room. So I want to understand, should we differentiate better decision making from profit making, mindset? That is their problem. And rather than, general people day to day with all their data are still able to make good decisions. Lots of good companies are there. They are working in the right direction. Help us understand, because before we bring wiser and the scientist into the room.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could answer that a number of ways. And I think there's a misconception that having a diverse panel leads to slower, decreasing productivity, which is not the case. They also think, it won't be as profitable because we're not all thinking that. Whereas it's been proven that companies that are more inclusive in this way and look for talent, like you're also not unearthing talent within your organization and seeing who should be in the room and giving them a voice. The other thing you get from this is real buy-in. If you can speak in the ways that people hear about the way the decision's been made, where you are referencing outcomes, you are referencing, the six different types, then you end up with that buy-in from people, which is also really important. So I'm not sure it's about profit, because I think it's been proved. Obviously, you'd have more profit if you made better decisions. I just think it's the type. I would say it's the type of people that are running it and their limited view, with them thinking that they still know best. Like I don't know if it's about profit, but I think it's about people not being open to what they might be missing and their biases.
Absolutely. So when you say that, a decision scientist, putting a decision scientist in the room, what does that mean? How should different companies, different sectors who are genuinely interested in better decisions, how should they understand it?
Yeah, well, I mean, in the past, some people, it's very traditional to use big consultants, which I'm not saying don't do, but I think it's important that you understand who you have in your organization, rather than giving all your intellectual, your organizational intelligence to a third party that then you have to keep bringing back in. Wouldn't it be nice to understand who you have? And I think, what we've aimed to do in Wiser is make that really simple for organizations. And we've created this decision intelligence platform. And I think we've got three things that are very different. We've got decision profiles, so you can understand immediately who you have or which way you're swaying, and it breaks down into teams and groups. So you can see, oh gosh, we've done many board assessments where it's just blatantly obvious how far skewed you are, or at least you know what you're missing. And then we've got panel strength, which will show you live whether or not it goes from red to green, whether or not you have the right people in the room. And once again, it looks at across those three things. So you can see, it might say, hey, everybody in this room is over 65. Do you want, or you've got no women, or you've got no one that is worried about risk in this room. Like, it'll just tell you live what you're missing. And then we also have a recommendation panel. So it'll show up what the system recommends to round out this decision, this decision panel for you live. So it's trying to help you avoid the biases that you might not even realize you have.
Right, Kylee. A leader is supposed to be a leader. They should look as a strong leader, someone who can take decisions. If they bring in Wiser, they will look weak, they will look indecisive. How does that work? Keeping the leaders' ego or self-respect intact within the organization, as well as they're taking the right decisions by bringing in Wiser technology. How does Wiser come in wisely into the system, Kylee?
Well, I argue the point that I think it makes them look, I think that's a cultural issue if you think it makes you look weaker, because if you're looking at how you run your company, you want the best outcomes, don't you? So if you're worried about your ego, that's a big, you should be probably getting some coaching on that. But one of the things that Juliet's book looks at is that inclusive leader. And, we know when we talk to people immediately who gets it and who doesn't. We do come across with the people that need it most want it least because of the things you're talking about. And one of the ways around that I've dealt with those kind of people is I say, well, how do you delegate with certainty? And then that leader will be like, well, I should be making all the decisions, which is fine. But how has the information come to you if we take a step back to that? And that's when they reflect and go, oh, yeah, I've got a problem with this team and I know it's a problem. I'm not sure who's involved. So I think part of it is just, adding clarity to the situation. And, I think if you're open to it, it can only make you a better leader.
Absolutely. And what sort of, when you say decision making, what sort of decisions you are talking about? Is it only about the top decision making, or every decision has to be made, made through a tool? Then where is the human element? People will think it is the tool which is the center and we are revolving around it.
We were very conscious not to go into AI decision making. We believe people are what creates great decisions. Their nuance, their character, they can see the future. So it's just helping you uncover the people. It is still all about people. It also de-silos organizations. So it helps you understand, you wouldn't even necessarily need to make the decision in the platform, but at least check that you've got the right people in the room. We've got a really interesting case study in M&A when mergers and acquisitions are coming. We're talking to some consultants that are like, these people get put in the room for us and they know they're not right. Whereas WiseOut just adds that scientific element that says, hey, this is what you're missing. And most people self-correct. I think because it's not an emotional thing that says you're wrong or you're this, you're that. It just shows you very blatantly what the science says about that decision. There's not somebody to argue with about it. It's not personal. It just says, hey, you're a little bit off here. Do you want to add this person, or do you have somebody that looks like this that might help you round out that decision, that group of decision makers?
Absolutely. How should people understand your company Wiser? How should they understand how it integrate into what they are doing? How should they get started with something like that?
Yeah, over 90% of our clients just start with decision profile mapping. So they can map a team, they can map, their whole organization, and we split them into groups, into panels, into whatever they're doing, and they can see what they're missing and what they're not. Then when they go to make a decision, they can put it into the system. And as I said, it gives you that panel strength, and then it also gives you the indicator as to who might be missing. I just think, first and foremost, it's giving you mindfulness and assessment of what you actually need, what you actually have, and what you might be missing, and who might be there that you've never looked at. One of the really interesting statistics we have right now is 40 to 60% of people that are coming through the recommendation engine haven't been in that group before, in that decision group before. So it really is unearthing people. And it's, what the leader does with that then is up to them, but at least they can see the difference between what they have and what's being suggested.
Absolutely. So your clients are only in Australia, or anyone in, say, in India also they can connect with you?
Anywhere. It's, the age of the digital, it's all up and ready to go, and people are more than welcome to try their decision profiles for free on our site. The individuals can do that. And we just also, in the last couple of months, had a new tool where a client came to us and said, could we use your decision profiles to work out how to communicate with people? So we have a second tool called Snaps, where you can generate a profile about somebody else and check what you're going to send to them. Say it's an email, a text, or whatever. You can check what comes back from the system. It says, AJ is likely an analyzer. You can put in your messaging to AJ and it'll come back and say, look, this is right or wrong. And when we've now assessed hundreds of bequesting, donor request emails. And what we're realizing is those bequest emails have been written, they're not reaching 3 types of profiles in particular: the outcomes orientated, the risk, and the analyzer. So they're missing those 3 completely when they're writing these emails.
Wonderful. So for those people who want to connect with you, what's the best way for them?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn under my name. Since I'm a double E, it's a little bit easier to find than the Kylee with an IE. And at wiser.business, just reach out, and I'm very accessible. Would love to chat. I could talk decisions all day.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.